these are pretty much the 7 major steps that I've found to limit growth and wealth in a chiropractic practice. There's all kinds of balls you have to juggle. When you're self-employed, there's 7 major categories of being self-employed, 7 major categories. And only one of them is the technical, the chiropractic part. You got everything from human resources to being the CEO to marketing to financial department to quality and service. There's 7 different categories of running a business. So the 7 major steps to practice growth I found. So there's a lot of stuff that seems like it's coming your way. It seems like there's a lot of balls in the air you're juggling a lot of times. But it really comes down to just a few things. In other words, there's a few things that make a tremendous difference. And most doctors I found spend their time and energy doing, overwhelmingly putting their time and energy on things that make the absolute littlest to no difference at all. Now, they think it does, but it doesn't. And they think it's important, but it's not. So these are the common areas that I found. Number one, obviously, is patient retention and education. You don't know how to keep patients. You got all kinds of problems. You don't know how to communicate with patients. You just got all kinds of problems. New patient problems, overhead problems, profit problems, overhead problems. I mean, it just destroys every category of a business. And magnifies all the other categories when you don't know how to keep patients. So, and we talk about at least over a 50% prepay, preferably 70%, and over a 70% active referral rate. That shows you know how to get business and keep it. And then the next one is the office layout and patient flow day 1 through 10 matches your therapeutic protocol. I see that as a big limiting factor. A lot of times the layout relative to the therapies don't match. There's bad layout, bad systems relative to the therapeutic protocol. That alone becomes a really inhibiting factor. And that's overlooked frequently. Staff meetings. Nobody likes to do. I don't know of one chiropractor that likes to do staff meetings. Unfortunately, but that's the single most important thing you're going to do in your business. That controls everything. The staff meeting controls everything. Tells you problems that's going to happen before they happen. It stops problems from happening. It tells you how well people are doing, not doing. They need to be trained, hired, fired. I mean, it does everything. When I hear a doctor who's not doing staff meetings, I know he's got a terrible practice. He's got a terrible business because that's the business of running the practice right there. And no, typically doctors don't like to run the business. They like the clinical part. But unfortunately, these are things that have to be learned. So staff meetings, unbelievably major. And a lot of times when my doctors start doing the staff meetings, they learn how easily a lot of other problems clear up. When you do the proper staff meetings, it clears up so many problems. It frees up time because your problems get cleared up. It puts systems in place. It gets everybody on the same page, which frees up even more time to see more patients, to be even more efficient, to give better service, all these things. The next one is staffing positions, responsibilities, and systems. Almost every doctor I talk to does not have designated staffing positions, does not have designated responsibilities with a hierarchy, and they don't have specific systems at all. They think they do. But when I actually get asked specific questions of who, what are and itemize out the responsibilities and the hierarchy and what's the system and what are the steps to the system, the answer is, I don't have that. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes to be able to build your business. You have to have well-trained, good people in place with very specific responsibilities and a hierarchy of responsibilities, and then the systems. And there's a few systems that you have to run, especially with the patients. You know, when we have patients come through the office, there's what's called 10 unique systems. There's 10 unique visits that a typical chiropractic patient goes through when they come through an office. 10 unique visits. That there's certain things that should happen in each of these visits with different staff members at different times of their visit. Those are all systems. New patient marketing, of course, everybody knows that. Interesting, the guys that learn educational sales, that's never a problem. The doctors that never learn educational sales, that's always the problem. It's always going to be the problem when only 8% of the population is looking for a chiropractor. So until you learn educational sales and apply it, you're always going to have new patient problems to some degree. And then the associate doctor hiring, training, and management, and that's when life changes. So when you have your systems in place, your people in place, now you have what's called a well-oiled machine. It's not just haphazard and you're doing everything where, everything's on your back. That is not how it's done. So we have good systems for people responsible. It's all managed through the statistics in the staff meeting. We know exactly what's going on. If something's going good, bad, or haphazard, until we know it before it even happens. And so then we go into the next category is the associate doctor hiring, training, and management. And that's when I said it all the time. I said, your life will never be the same. When you learn how to hire and train and manage associate doctors, your quality of life explodes. It explodes. Your energy, your motivation, everything just goes off the charts when you're working part-time and you have other sources of passive income. You have all these other people, associate doctor, et cetera, and staff that are all pulling the wagon, not just you. Matter of fact, you could totally step away and your practice will keep going. That's when you have good systems. So that's when your life changes because you got freedom and passive income. So that's a huge, huge development and opportunity is the associate doctor situation. And the last one's real estate. And again, it's easy to learn the basics of real estate, how to pick good quality real estate, how to evaluate it, how to understand demand real estate, what real estate to stay away from, how to pay attention to your ratios, repair, management, all that stuff. All that stuff's pretty easy to do, to be honest with you. The only difficult part is if you're going to try to learn how to do what's called owner financing. Well, then you have to learn negotiations. And that does take a skill level. That's not easy. But if you're just going to, buy good, high quality real estate with loans, with bank loans, and again, you're very limited when you do that. I cover that in my real estate course, but it's very limiting when you do that. But it's better than nothing. And so even if you just did that, learn it, and didn't do any owner financing, and picked up 2 properties a year, remember, you pick up 2 properties a year, 5 years later, you got 10 properties. You don't have to work again. You've got at least 2 associate doctors. You're working part-time or not at all. You got 10 sources of passive income plus 2 associate doctors. You got 12 sources of passive income. You don't have to work another day in your life. That's when life gets fun again. That's when it gets very, very interesting. That's when you start looking at things that you never thought you could do in your life, like take time out to learn how to fly an airplane. All kinds of things that you thought you'd never be able to do, but you wanted to do. Your life totally changes. So those are the 7, so there's a lot of balls in the air. I understand that. And I started a practice, I did all that, grew a practice. I understand that. I understand. But, that's the power of hiring a mentor and a checklist and a blueprint. That's the power of it. It helps to overcome all the little stuff that just, and 80% of the little stuff is what inhibits and stops people. And next thing you know, it's 6 months later, a year later, you didn't grow your practice, you don't have your systems in place, and you got no associate doctors, and you didn't buy any real estate. And that's how fast it all happens. Time's gonna go. It's gonna go either way. 3 months is gonna be 3 months either way. You might as well find, attack, isolate your weakest link and get it corrected. and do that every 3 months, and you have just a phenomenal business 1 year later, which turns into a phenomenal life, a phenomenal lifestyle. And I can certainly say that from firsthand experience.